Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we are the Arena Regulars.
Welcome to our show.
We've got some tipsy takes for MTG Arena, where our skills are limited.
And our criticisms are constructive.
Hey, Jeff. What's on tap? What are you drinking?
Today I brought a beer from Elora, Ontario, from Elora Brewing Co., and it's called Elora Borealis.
Okay.
I've actually had this before. It's just a rock-solid pale ale, and not much more to be said about that. It's just everything you could want out of a pale ale.
Great. What percent we got there?
5.1.
5.1.
How about you? What do you got?
I got you beat. I'm a 5.2.
All right.
This is Fat Tire from New Belgium Brewing Company. It's an amber ale. They started in my hometown, so it's one of my favorite beers. So I thought I should just bring that. Hey, cheers, bud.
Cheers.
So what is this? What are we doing?
All right. So for those who don't know, which is all of you, because this is episode 1.
It's everybody.
The format of the show is we're going to bring 4 beers each. Mm-hmm. Don't worry, we're only drinking 3 of them.
And they're all the same kind of beer.
Right. So Zach brought 4 Fat Tires. I brought 4 Elora Borealises. And for this first segment of the show, we're going to drink the beer that we brought. Then we're going to have a brief intermission, and in our second part, we're going to switch beers. So I'm going to try the Fat Tire, he's going to try the Elora Borealis. And the reason we brought 4 each is for the third segment, we each get to choose whichever one we want, so we've got to make sure we have the extra on hand.
Yeah, it has kind of like which one's the best at the end.
Right.
We decide which one we like the most, or just which one we want. I guess that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. It's just which one are you feeling at the time? Yeah.
And then there's extra beer for later, so
exactly.
That's always a good thing.
But Zach, that's not all we're doing, right?
We're not just talking about beer, Jeff.
What else are we talking about?
We're talking about Magic the Gathering Arena. That's what this is about.
What are the main topics for today?
So today, as I pull up my show notes, because I'm not looking at them right now. So we have lots of stuff. Basically, we just kind of want to hammer out what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about what this podcast is about, why we decided to start it, and
where we want to go with it, future things, and while we're drinking beer, because,
Right.
Wow.
After that, we're going to cover... There's a pretty big Magic the Gathering Arena event that happened this past weekend. The season grand finals, so we have some thoughts about that. Mm-hmm. And there was also a big ban, so we're recording on Tuesday. The banning was yesterday.
Yeah, so that's been a huge shakeup.
Yeah, much needed, and we'll discuss what we think about it.
Exactly.
But before that, Zach, we got to rate these beers.
We do have to rate these beers. I feel like I want to have a little bit more time with mine.
Okay.
I think I want to, before I get you to drink it, I'm gonna tell you what I think about it.
All right.
About that? Okay.
Okay, you let me know.
All right, I'll do that. So, what we're doing here is through this, the state of the world, I guess, the pandemic and everything. We can't play Magic in person. There's really no paper events going on, which is good, actually. I mean, obviously we want everything to...
We have, Spell Table. I think it's the closest you'll get.
Yeah, you can play on webcam.
Which is not bad, honestly.
Have you tried it?
I've seen it,
okay.
So I've seen someone try it.
I've heard people really like it. I have some Commander friends that want to play it. I haven't been able to do that specifically with them. Mm-hmm. But I'm a Mac user, so I finally got to play Arena after so long. It came out in June, and so now I'm playing, and it's awesome. It's so great.
Arena is awesome. See, you didn't have to go through all the parts where it was pretty rocky.
Yeah. But, well,
I know. I'm trying to make it sound like a positive that you've been waiting for Arena for years.
I mean, it is fantastic. I'm very excited.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Arena is just great. It's so much fun. You can draft whenever you want.
I can draft whenever I draft.
Maybe that's
so much.
Maybe you could draft too.
The other day, a friend of mine was asking me, okay, so I'm about to do my 7th draft. How many drafts have you done of Zendikar? And I looked up, I was like, 24. And he's like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, wow, I didn't think it was that many, but I definitely will just crush some beers and draft 3 times in a night.
See, that's information I don't want access to. I don't want to know how many drafts I've done.
I don't need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, just having everything at your fingertips, being able to play with some of your friends. I know a lot of people actually don't utilize the friends bit on Arena, but it has been kind of fun. I've used it a few times.
For sure, yeah.
Even if you're just chatting with somebody while you're drafting.
Yeah, it's mostly limited to that, and you can direct challenge. But it will evolve, right?
It will
Eventually,
evolve.
we will be able to start draft pods with our 8 or 7 other friends.
Yeah. It's fantastic. But the big reason why we're talking about this is because we can't play in person, we've been playing a lot more on Arena, and it has kind of become our bar. It's like our neighborhood bar.
Yeah, exactly.
That we're regulars at.
We are regulars.
We're regulars at Arena.
I get it.
Oh, like Arena regulars. Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyways. So why did we start this podcast? Well, I actually sort of...
What was your idea?
Yeah, we were actually frolfing the time.
We were disc golfing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, he loves it when I call it frolf.
Yeah.
And I just had listened to some podcasts on the way over. I love listening to Magic content,
Same.
whenever I can.
Yeah.
And all the podcasts I listen to are great, but I felt like there was something missing for me. So I wouldn't consider myself a totally competitive player, but I need some level of competition to really enjoy the game. I never liked playing poker for fake chips. Or,
that is fun.
Right. So when there's nothing on the line,
There could be something lost. It is nice to play for something, even if it's just like a pack of cards or
Yeah, exactly.
a beer.
But I'm not one of these all-in competitive guys that wants to listen to people pour over deck lists of winning tournaments and really go into the ins. I find that interesting, but I felt like there was a middle ground that could be had. Most podcasts in the community, or most content in the community really, is either totally geared towards hyper-competitive players or totally geared towards the casual players who don't care at all about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was some room for a middle ground.
Exactly. Yeah, and Jeff had brought this up to me, and at first I wasn't sure just because I know there's so much content out there. But once we started to kind of narrow it down, this felt like there's possibly... Well, I'm not listening to this.
Right.
Also, there's all these events going on that I haven't really been a part of because none of the podcasts I was listening to knew anything about them. Like, they won't talk about them. Usually it's because it wasn't the formats that they play.
Right.
But it's been so nice to be able to, watch an actual tournament and then go and play that deck.
Right.
And then I just don't feel like I have that many people to talk to about it. So
we're talking to you.
So we're talking to you, or we're talking to each other, really,
Right.
because
Well, we were going to do that anyways. So
yeah,
might
exactly.
as well record it.
Might as well record it, right?
Yeah, and I felt like Zach and I would make a perfect team because I think Zach is less competitive than me.
I'm
in terms of their Magic scene.
Yeah, I'm pretty casual. My experiences,
but still not totally all the way into.
Well, I still like to win.
Right. But you enjoy playing competitive formats like Standard and Historic.
Yeah, it has been really fun because I haven't really tried to play those in years.
Right.
Like since I started playing, that's when I was like playing Standard, or at the time it was like Type 2 or something.
Type 2. Geez.
Yeah, it was like Type 1.5 or Type
That's
2.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, so that's when, and then I kind of stopped. Whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I think I just love being able to just like copy a deck list and then immediately play it and be like, wow, I am so much worse than the person that I just watched.
Right.
Like, this deck is not just easy to pilot.
Exactly, yeah.
And it really gives you perspective, I think.
Yeah. And the other main thing I noticed was that, and I'm sure you've noticed this too if you've been a big part of the MTG community, is it just has a tendency to get very negative very fast. Wizards has a really tough job. They
do.
have to balance this game, and then millions of people are playing millions of games within minutes of the set being released. And they had to predict what's going to happen. Now, whether you think Wizards is doing a good job or not, basically all the flaws get pointed out, all the mistakes, and really compounded, and people seem to almost take it personally.
Yeah.
That Wizards has done some personal affront to them by printing Omnath or something like that. And we just wanted, our main philosophy here is that, hey, Magic the Gathering, and in particular Magic the Gathering Arena, is a game. And in particular, it's a really fun game.
It's a very fun game.
And so we just want to remind you that this game is about fun, and it has been a lot of fun in recent years.
It's been a ton of fun. It's actually like, It's just so nice because there's a lot of fun things I can't do right now.
Yeah.
And this has been a saving grace.
And so we're excited to try to put some positive first content into the community.
Yeah, or at least try,
Right. And that doesn't mean that we're never going to talk about stuff we don't like,
Sure.
or there's never going to be anything negative that we say. It just means that we're going to approach it, with an open mind. And
Yeah,
and our focus is going to be on how fun Magic is. And
Exactly.
not all the stuff. You could get the content about people saying this card should have been banned and Wizards didn't ban it and they're going to ban it 2 months from now.
or this
and
card
they'll
sucks
tell
and you should never pick it. Or
Right. You can get that elsewhere. There's lots of places you can
Yeah,
get that.
we also can't. Oh, I personally, I'm talking for myself. I can't tell you those things, or I can just make blanket statements, and they're going to be horribly wrong. Probably.
Right. Well, that won't stop us from making
yeah.
blanket statements.
That are
I don't know why he's saying
wrong.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jeff, with that, I just want to know, where did you start playing Magic? What's your Magic story?
Good question. So I started playing Magic as a kid. I feel like that happens with a lot of people.
There's a lot of people.
Basically, one of my dad's best friends, his son was quite a bit older than me, and he was moving off to college, and he had this old box of Magic cards that he didn't want to take with him.
Oh, score.
Just gave it to me. And so I started playing with my brother and then my friends. It was enough to build little decks out of and stuff like that. I don't really remember what cards were in that, to be honest, but I remember a lot of Mercadian Masks cards.
Okay.
Some Invasion cards.
All right.
Because there's some that I see on the internet now. I'm like, I remember that card from the box.
Yeah, that's a box card.
Right. It had Fires of Yavimaya in it, which I later learned was an awesome card.
Yeah. Okay.
But then the first set I bought, my mom took us to the store, and I bought a pre-constructed deck, and that was Judgment. Yeah, so my brother and I each bought a deck. Mine was... Well, I don't actually remember which one was which, but mine, I'm pretty sure mine was green-white.
Okay.
And it had to do with this eternal theme where the creatures, they die 3 times before they die, but they keep coming back with fewer +1/+1 counters.
Oh, yeah, those spirits. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's very white-green.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did eventually go to a pre-release, and that was Dark Steel. And that was when I was maybe 12, something like that. And that was a lot of fun. But then I didn't play for a while. I was about 10 or I was going into high school. Other things took priority, and I didn't really play in undergraduate at all either. So I started playing again during Cons of Tarkir, and I've pretty much not stopped playing since. I've started dipping in the amount that I played during sets that I enjoyed less, but for the most part, I've been playing since Cons of Tarkir.
Nice. And since you've been playing Arena, though, have you been more constant, or has it been? Have there been sets in Arena's lifetime that you're like, I'm just going to step out of this one?
Arena tends to be more whether I enjoy drafting the set.
Got it.
I didn't really enjoy drafting Ikoria that much, if I'm being honest. So I didn't really play a lot.
Interesting.
That. Because sometimes you can get sick of one format. It's okay. Sure. Arena has 2 other ones that you can jump into.
Yeah, exactly.
Even more than that. But I always need the limited format to kind of...
To really get you excited about it? Because that's also how you kind of collect cards in Arena.
Exactly. So even though Ikoria actually had a lot of really cool cards for Constructed, I just didn't know them because I wasn't drafting and seeing them. And,
Yeah, that's true. I didn't play a ton of Ikoria just because the pandemic, and I couldn't. So I really started playing in Arena, obviously, for M21. But yeah, I started playing Magic very similarly to you. Well, besides the awesome big box of cards. That's great.
Free stuff.
I was really into a lot of trading card games when I was a kid. I played, I didn't really play. I just had a bunch of different trades. I just liked cards.
I'm sure you didn't even play by the right rules when you did play.
I definitely didn't know how to play Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Very well. I had Harry Potter trading cards. Those were actually... I did know how to play that game. Okay. And nobody
I didn't even know such a game existed.
Oh, it was great. It's just mono mill. Every deck is a mill deck, essentially. It's great.
So your deck is your life total.
Yes, in the entire game.
Right.
Which I thought was really cool, which then leads me to mill. Well, that doesn't come straight from that, but whatever. I started playing an Onslaught block.
Okay.
After
my judgment.
Yeah, just after you started. I had my grandfather passed away, and I was going to visit my cousins, and I don't really see them very often.
Okay.
And they had taught me how to play Magic. It was like, oh, this sweet new game they wanted to teach me, and I immediately fell in love with it. The first pack I ever bought was a Legions pack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which was great.
Got a lot of creatures.
I didn't realize it was only creatures at the time. But no, that was awesome. My first rare was Essence Sliver, which actually I hated because it was white, and I didn't like any white cards, and I wanted all black cards. That was my favorite color.
And that's my favorite color.
Yeah. Hey, look at that. But yeah, and then I taught my friends how to play, and we played through Kamigawa essentially, and then I would buy packs randomly after I kind of stopped playing. When I was in college, somebody on my floor played, and so we got together and we would just play big free-for-all matches with a bunch of guys. Everyone was stoned but me, so I would win a good amount of the time. I also played Golgari Infect, so so that was pretty fun. And then I stopped for a while, and I moved to Toronto about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know anybody, so I was like, hey, I'll just start going to draft nights, and hopefully I'll meet people. And then I met Jeff.
Right, I guess we should tell that story.
Oh, yeah. We know each other from this place where you draft and you drink.
Right, which explains the podcast.
It explains the podcast.
Yeah, so it was called Draft and Draft, and you'd spend slightly more than your average amount for a draft, but not quite as much as it would cost for a draft and a beer.
Exactly.
And you would get both.
Yeah.
And it sort of phased in and out of being sanctioned by Wizards, went from unofficial to official depending on Wizards' policies.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to exclude people who can't drink.
Or people that wouldn't be old enough to kind of be in those settings.
Right.
I don't think it was specifically for the place we were at.
No, just the general
Yeah, just the general thing. Because where we were at, it was kind of more of like it wasn't really a bar. It was like a game store.
Yeah. Anyone would have been allowed to.
Anyone could be there.
And if they didn't drink, they would get some other beverage from the menu.
Yeah, which isn't as good of a deal, but it's still fine. Well, we wanted everyone to play with us.
For sure, yeah. But yeah, that's how we met. So you can that's the roots there.
That's the roots. Beers and cards.
Now, what about your play style, Zach? What kind of decks do you enjoy? What's your favorite card?
So,
give me the goods here.
Well, I said my favorite color is black.
Yeah.
Yours is also black. I think the first deck I ever built was a mono black zombies deck.
Okay.
So my favorite cards were, and they still have a special place in my heart. It's hard with playing through a bunch of cards, all these kind of things that are my favorite. But I think the card Nuntuko Husk.
Okay.
That is like one of my favorite cards, also because damage would still go on the stack at the time.
Right.
So I remember learning how that worked at a tournament once. Somebody taught me how my cards actually were supposed to play, and I was like, what? And then after that, my friends would never believe me. They're like, no, that's not fair. You can't put damage on the stack and then sacrifice the creature. I was like, yes, I can.
Which is exactly why Wizards changed the rules.
Yeah.
Because nobody believed you.
Nobody would believe me.
Because it's not intuitive.
Yeah, it's not intuitive. It's really complicated and makes sacrificing stuff very good.
It's still very good.
Well, sacrificing stuff is still very good, but it's much better when you also get to kill something on the way out. That and then Festering Goblin. I don't know if you know this card.
Oh, I know.
You know? Okay. Yeah. It's just a 1-mana 1/1.
I think it was in a recent core set, maybe.
No, there's cards like it. Festering Mummy does the same thing, I think.
But Festering Goblin's just the 1/1 for 1.
It's just a 1/1 for 1, and when it dies, it gives a creature -1/-1.
Well, maybe in Amonkhet there was something that put a -1/-1.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that was the Mummy one. That was it was like, I think it was still Festering because they're referring to the goblin. Mm-hmm. But the art on that card is just like this little goblin, and he's just.
Well, I'm thinking of Goblin Arsonist as the similar card that got reprinted. In a course.
No, not that one. But it does the similar thing. Yeah,
it deals 1 damage when it
does. Yeah, so it's basically the same. I just like the art on Festering Goblin. It's just like this guy walking away from a town.
I remember the card,
And he just looks like everyone just shunned him, which is... Anyway.
I played with those cards a lot.
Yeah. But what about you? I mean, like, my play style changes. I always feel like I'm kind of all over the place. I just pick decks that look interesting.
That's great.
But what about you? So black. Black's your favorite color.
Black's my favorite color. And interestingly, I don't like green that much as a color. But my favorite 2-color combination by far is green-black.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's so strange.
Those
Because
are just the kind of decks I like to play.
I always go so far away from that.
Right. Well, see, it's gotten some bad rap recently because they printed a lot of green-blue cards, and then black's always the best color to just throw in with that because you can kill stuff now.
Yeah.
And so people are always complaining, oh, green-black, oh, Sultai, It's like, but hey, it's not our fault. It's not Golgari's fault.
Yeah,
it's Simic's fault.
It's Simic's fault.
Yeah, they're printing some Simic cards.
Just like busted Simic cards.
Yeah.
But
then,
throw some black in there.
And then Simic can't kill stuff, so they throw black cards in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my favorite type of deck would be like a synergistic mid-range deck.
Gotcha.
So something that is not... Because mid-range tends to just be all the best cards.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of a mid-range deck that taps out and tries to think about what its opponent's game plan is and varies between playing the control and aggro role. But I don't like to just throw together the best cards. I like to have some synergy there. So the best example I can think of in recent years would be the green-black Delirium deck from a few years ago.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to get all these different card types into your deck and you're trying to mill yourself over. And that turns your cards into individually powerful cards.
I did like that, though.
Yeah, the deck ended up getting a bad rap again because it was too good because of Emrakul the Promised End. Mm-hmm. But when I saw that card printed, I was like, no, my green-black deck now is not something I can play because it's going to be the best.
That's funny. So what kind of like formats were you playing? What's your big background when you were playing strong Magic throughout your history? Kind of like
so I was always the guy that would show up to the competitive event with a brew. That's kind of my thing.
All right, brewmaster.
And I started out with standard, right? Because I picked up Khans of Tarkir. I just started playing that, and I built a standard deck and took it to some competitive events. And then I slowly kind of got a little bit into Modern for a while because I had all the fetch lands from playing Khans of Tarkir.
Yeah.
Well, I had half the fetch lands.
Yeah, half the fetch lands.
But that's usually good enough if you have a few shock lands.
Exactly.
So I played a little bit of Modern, but now that Arena's out, I play Arena. So
yeah, just Arena.
I built up this whole Magic Online collection that I never use now.
I guess, yeah. Can you just sell those, or?
Yeah, maybe, but then I'm always like, oh, what if I get really into Pioneer? Because I did get into Pioneer for a little bit.
Okay.
And then my favorite deck, Black-Green Mid-Range, got too good, and I don't like it.
You want to play?
I need to bring a brew,
Yeah, something people haven't seen.
I liked playing Sultai before, Sultai won the Players Tour.
Oh, wow. So hipster. I like
before
this
they printed Uro,
Yeah.
Because... I put in the show notes the Treasure Map is my favorite card.
Oh.
Which I guess it might be, but it's close competition between Treasure Map and Seder Wayfinder. God, I love Seder Wayfinder.
Really? Yeah. Interesting. I know people really like that card. I don't personally, but that
just does it all. But Treasure Map, I think, still wins out just because of the flavor on it.
Yeah.
Like you get the 3 treasures when you flip it. You found the treasure cove, and now you get these 3 treasures, and it pays you off for that.
I think there was a lot of cool stuff from Ixalan that did things like that.
Yeah, I just thought that card was so evocative, and it was good, but not too good.
Yeah. I know there's like so many people that weren't huge fans of Ixalan, mainly because of the limited
format was not that fun.
It wasn't that fun. I was hoping that it was going to be a little bit more like, Onslaught blocked or any tribal.
Right. It was tribal done wrong.
Yeah.
I think.
We're in Zendikar where tribal's done
Rising.
right.
Exactly. I think it's the same thing.
I think they did a really good job with this because, all the tribes some of the cards are trying to do different things. So it's not just jam all your pirates together.
Right.
It's like, wait, does this wizard want to be with wizards or does this wizard want to be with other creatures?
Exactly. Some of them want you to have more wizards and some of them want you to have warriors and thieves rogues and
all this stuff. So you have to really think about it, which is what it feels like is a strong tribal set.
Right. Ixalan was a bit, I picked 2 good merfolk. Now I just take every merfolk card I see for the rest of the draft.
Basically. Yeah. And so that was like, it was fine. I mean, it is a good set for teaching people how to draft. That's one thing. Like besides like a core set, if you're trying to get people to learn how to draft, it's a simple way to be like, hey, you open that 3-color dinosaur, just pick all the dinosaurs of those colors.
It was also just a bit too aggressive. Like, I like formats where aggro is a viable strategy, but not the only strategy.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, Ixalan was quite aggressive because it had that 5/5 haste trample uncommon for 5.
Right.
It's like, this used to be a rare.
But now it's, I mean, that will happen. But I remember in Rivals, you could play like white.
When Rivals came out, it slowed the format down.
Really, because I felt like it sped it up a little bit. Because you could play blue-red auras. Because there was a lot of like...
Oh yeah, auras were a big thing.
Auras were... like, because then you didn't...
And that's because the removal was so bad in Ixalan.
Was it? I guess maybe. I just remember playing auras decks and being like, this is dope.
I think it was when they were deciding that we need better creatures and worse removal. And so the best removal was like 5 mana... sorcery speed.
Oh, that, yeah.
Anyways, we're not here to talk about Ixalan.
We're really not here to talk about Ixalan, but that was a...
But my favorite format definitely varies. You know, sometimes I get really into Standard.
Yeah.
Then I go super into Historic, and then I just want to draft all the time, and I kind of bounce around between the different Arena formats.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so nice playing Arena just because, well, Standard just seems so easy to get into because... I have the cards now. Like I put in the time and some money, and I have the pieces I need for the most part. And then you can just like kind of play whatever deck you feel like. Same with Historic. It's just you don't. There's less feel bads. Like if a card's about to be banned, I just try to craft as many as I can so that I'll get the wild cards back. Yeah. And then have them for Historic or anything.
We'll have some tips on stuff like that.
Yeah.
Later, future episodes.
But it just. As far as paper goes, I mainly play Commander in paper. Actually, I only play Commander in paper. Besides, well, because you can't really play anywhere else.
Right.
but that's what my collection, my
even before COVID.
Even before COVID and all that.
Commander in paper.
Yeah, mainly I was playing Commander, and I just started playing Standard and Historic because of, well, literally because of Arena.
Right.
Anyway, how's your beer doing?
I'm almost done. Are you ready to give me that rating?
Just about. I think so. I've had this beer so many times. It is like nice and light, a little sweet. There's like kind of like that like malty kind of caramelly feel to it, like an amber. Usually, what I want in an amber is going to be a little bit of the sweetness.
Ambers in general are just super underrated.
I think they're super underrated. Like I'm a big fan of them, especially this one because it's from my hometown in Colorado.
Right.
So
it has that nostalgia factor.
It has the nostalgia factor. I will talk about it all the time.
It's true.
It's true. Jeff knows.
Can confirm.
He'll always make jokes about it because I talk about it so much. And so I'm gonna give this a Mythic. This is a beer I will drink every day of the week. I will bring it to parties. I will teach people about it. It's one of my favorite beers. I can't have enough of them in my fridge.
Awesome.
So it goes straight to Mythic. It's where I want beer to be. You know.
Perfect. This is your reward when you hit Mythic, right? You crack one of those. Yeah. So for me, this Aurora Borealis, like I said, it's just an absolute rock solid pale ale. But there's nothing crazy going on here. I mean, I love the name.
Yeah.
I think it tastes great. I think this is just a firm sort of platinum here, you know.
Yeah.
Really good. Nothing wrong with it. But it doesn't wow me.
Gotcha. Okay.
So maybe we have to explain the rating system.
Yeah, so, we should probably talk about that.
Yeah.
So,
they may have figured it out, but...
You may have figured it out, but we are going to rate all of our beers on the tier system in the game.
Right.
So
we have bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, mythic. Yeah. And when we need some clarification, we'll say like platinum 1 to mean like it's right on the cusp of diamond.
Almost there. Yeah. And we also haven't really decided. Well, this is kind of we're working on this.
Yeah,
system.
This is going to be a fluid scale.
Yeah, and we'll see how it goes. But basically, there's two kind of factors, which is like, is this beer the best it can be? Is it like mythic level, right there? You know, is it mythic number 1? Is this the
Could
best
be a
beer?
pure kind of 1 to 10 scale. Well,
that
refactored
for 6. But yeah, basically, there's that way. Or we also talk about, is this the beer you want to be drinking in that tier, trying to get to the next?
Like, let's say I'm up late, you know, I'm just having fun playing standard, I'm in platinum. Is this the kind of beer I would be drinking, you know? I think so.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. But, maybe you have this 10% bomb that you really like, but you might not drink that in Diamond because it really hurts your chances of getting to Mythic.
Yeah, those nights where you're like, okay, I'm trying to rank up because I want to be able to get into Mythic right before like the season ends or something. Probably don't want to drink that 10%.
Right.
Right. That's good for the next day when the season has changed and you can do whatever you want.
So we're always going to be balancing those factors. So.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. Progress.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress. But I think it's time.
I'm ready for another.
It's a beer break.
Okay.
It's a beer break.
Well, Zach, I want to start by saying thanks for the fat tire.
Hey, thank you for the Aurora Borealis. There we go.
Let's dig in.
All right. Okay. I see it. You've had a fat tire before, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay.
You've forced it down my throat several times. Yeah, it's good.
This is nice. You brought a nice platinum.
Right? Isn't platinum just the perfect?
Well, yeah, we'll see. I think that's how I feel about it, but I might feel differently than you.
All right, let me know.
Yeah. Anyway, here we move on to the next part of our first show.
Yeah.
Did we say it was our first show?
Yeah, we mentioned that.
I can't remember. Too many beers.
Yeah, it's been one.
It's been one. There was a pre-show beer you didn't
You're not
know
supposed to
about.
let them behind the scenes.
Yeah, behind the scenes.
So we want to talk about this weekend's event, the season grand finals.
Grand finals.
So the competitive scene in Magic these days is very complicated. There's a ton of different events that qualify for a ton of different events.
Very confusing.
What you need to know is that this one was the last one of the season. It's the big one.
Yeah, it's a big
This
one.
is the biggest prize pool. Everyone there's only 32 competitors.
Mm-hmm.
They had to go through a gauntlet of some sort to qualify.
Yeah, like you had to be in the top of other tournaments to get into this tournament.
Right. And it was played entirely on Magic Arena.
Mm-hmm.
It was split format, so it was kind of half standard, half historic, except that the top 8 was all standard.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the setup for that.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
Right.
Being a person who hasn't watched a lot of competitive Magic, I thought the split format was pretty interesting to watch. Especially because I think the first 4 games were historic, and then it was 2 standard on the first day.
It might have been 3 and 3, but definitely historic first.
Yeah, it was like historic and then standard and then historic the
Right.
next day.
Yeah. And then standard for the top 8.
Yes, and then standard for the top 8. Which we saw a lot of. Well, I mean, did you get to watch the whole tournament?
I did not. So, for those who don't know, this weekend that this event took place on was Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I am Canadian. So I was preoccupied.
Disposed.
Yeah.
Predisposed.
Visiting just immediate family. I was not being reckless, but we had a small Thanksgiving celebration. I was visiting family. And so I didn't really get to watch it. I did get to sort of catch the VODs and watch a little bit,
Yeah.
kind of, and then pick and choose kind of different things.
You were also like keeping up with the scores and stuff because we were texting
yeah,
about
exactly.
it. So.
I asked you not to tell me the outcome of the Autumn Burchett Seth Manfield.
Yes, I did not.
Right.
Which was great. I mean, like I had watched some of it as well. I was kind of jumping in and out because I was helping with Thanksgiving preparations of our own. I'm American though, so it's just my fiance. She was just we were making a bunch of stuff, but it was just us. So I didn't have as many people to talk to. So I got to kind of jump away more often. But it actually happened. It worked itself out that every time I turned on the broadcast, it was always like Autumn Burchett was playing. Right. I was like,
they were doing very well.
I have to watch them play. And so like I would just tell my fiance like, oh, Autumn's playing right now, so I'm just going to watch this real quick. So I got to see a lot of Autumn play, which was
a treat. Yeah.
Holy moly.
They're amazing.
Autumn is so good. They are just a very good Magic player.
For sure.
Oh, man.
So you were watching kind of live, and I got the VODs later on.
Post stuff.
Yep. Was there anything anything you particularly enjoyed? I mean, did you watched the Autumn versus Seth match?
I did. That was great. They were playing
I think it was standard.
I think they were playing
They would have been
standard.
on Gruul.
Yeah, so they were on Gruul. Seth was on Demir Rogues, which I thought was... I mean,
Rogues is in quotation marks.
Yeah, it's really just... It's Demir control. There's 4 Rogues in the deck, I think?
There's 2 different Rogues, 8 total.
Yeah, 8 total. So that's what I meant, sorry. 4 of each. And I like that. I've been playing Dimir Rogues a lot in the last, since Zendikar Rising came out. So it was fun to see that build.
And he's the only one that brought it.
He's the only one that brought it, which I was I was actually pretty surprised. I was surprised that I thought it was a pretty good fit against Omnath because since Uro's gone, you can do a lot more milling and stuff, and you can get through that deck, especially because that deck draws a ton of cards.
That's the thing, right? I don't think I ever saw him win by milling.
And he wasn't
milling.
milling.
That's his plan.
Yeah.
He's milling just enough to turn on into the story and drown in the law.
Yeah.
Which, when they have enough cards in their graveyard, both those cards are busted.
They're so awesome.
So he has this interesting deck of kind of these mediocre to bad cards when the opponent doesn't have enough cards in graveyard, but then he's just playing a busted control deck when they do.
Basically, just kind of one-for-oneing everything, but some of his cards will, he'll get up a card because of different things.
And then eventually he has a 4-mana instant speed draw 4.
Yeah, and then, he just gets to outvalue people, which is quite interesting.
Really cool deck.
Yeah, really cool deck.
Kind of towed the line between just a blue-black control mill deck
Yeah.
and a blue-black rogues deck.
Yeah, and every card was so cheap because he also had Lurrus as the companion.
Right.
And it was just...
That being said, he lost Autumn.
That's true. He did lose.
But so did everyone else on that day.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Gruul Adventures, man. Holy crap.
Yeah, that deck showed up.
So the build is Emma Handy's build.
Okay.
I saw this on Twitter. So she had built the deck 9 hours before deck lists were due.
Wow.
Or had the idea to build it.
Oh, okay. Even tighter.
Yeah, so Emma Handy, Autumn Burchett, Luis Salvato, and then there was one other person that was on their team. I can't remember their name.
Was it Austin?
It wasn't Austin.
Austin played Omnath.
Because Austin's teammate was Aaron Gertler.
Right.
And
they dominated.
Yeah, they dominated, right? But so this was Emma's build, and they were working as a group, and Emma had decided that she was going to go Gruul, and apparently every hour she would just post a new deck list
The
of what
thing that
they're going to do.
immediately struck me about their deck list: no questing beasts.
No questing beast, and to me, no lucky clovers.
Yeah, so Gruul Adventures usually didn't play lucky clovers. If they did, they'd play a copy or two.
Yeah.
Because Adventures is kind of a misnomer. I mean, it's just a Gruul beatdown deck.
Yeah.
That has this drawing, because the problem with those decks is sometimes you run out of cards.
Yeah.
So they play a Dwellin Keeper, because a lot of the cards you want to play, like Lovestruck Beast and Bone Crusher Giant, are adventure creatures.
Yeah. And so you just get to draw off of them?
Right. So you just play this one drop, which is, it's a 1/1 for 1. It's subpar on its own.
Yeah.
But with so many of your creatures, I think something like 12, with Rimrock Knight as well, you get to draw cards. So they usually don't bother with Clover just because they don't have enough adventure creatures to make that worth it.
And you're not trying to get... Because most of the time the Lucky Clover is used with the Bone Crusher so that you can stomp for 4.
Right.
And then you can hit Omnath with it. That's kind of why a lot of people...
And in the Adventures decks, they have Brazen Borrower bouncing multiple things.
So...
but it's just an aggro deck. I think it can't afford to play a 2-mana artifact.
Yeah, that does
attack.
nothing. Yeah, it doesn't attack, doesn't do anything.
But no Questing Beast. Questing Beast's kind of been a staple of red-green aggro decks forever.
Yeah.
It's just...
So...
They just decided they didn't need it, and they could...
And for the most... I mean...
Move their mana curve down a bit.
Until the top 8, that deck was crushing. I mean...
it helps when Autumn Burchett plays your deck.
Yeah, that's true. If Autumn Burchett's playing your deck, I'm sure, or has decided to play your deck, they will just rip through everyone. But yeah, after that, I actually immediately I watched that deck play. I just took the list and imported it straight into Arena, and I've been crushing with it. I was stuck at Platinum 4 for a while, and now I'm in Platinum 2, going into Diamond soon, probably.
Great. So you just had all the cards for it already?
I didn't have all of them.
Okay.
There were a few I needed, but I didn't have to do anything
Most
crazy.
of the cards are kind of staples you want anyway.
Exactly.
If you didn't have Bone Crusher Giants, you're going to want Bone Crusher.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt. I was like, well, I might as well just get some more Bone Crushers and stuff.
Right.
So I'm fine with that. And it didn't have any of the banned cards, which was great. So it just becomes probably the best deck right now that we're looking at.
And what did you think about Historic? Was there anything that jumped out to you? Or
I like the Neoform deck.
Okay.
I think that one's fun.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty funny. It didn't do super well.
No, but one of the matches I really enjoyed in Historic was Ken Yukihiro, who was playing that deck.
Yeah.
And he was playing against Gabriel Nassif.
Oh, I didn't see this one.
Gabriel Nassif had 4-color control.
Mm.
It's a pretty bad matchup for Ken. It's that, I mean, he's getting Thought Seized. He's getting Yasharmed, so there's Grafdigger's Cages involved here.
Yeah.
But Ken won game one, and game one he lost the match because the next two were sideboarded games. And Gabriel kind of ran him over.
Has the tech for it. Yeah.
But in game one, it was Ken just wasn't finding the combo pieces to put it together. I mean, he was getting Thought Seized and stuff like that. But Gabriel Nassif wasn't really finding a way to win the game himself. He found an Uro, and that got dealt with and stuff. But Ken's sitting there like abrading Uro and then copying it with Dualcaster Mage to kill the Uro. And it's just this ridiculous long game. The announcers are wondering if Ken has enough stuff in his deck to combo out.
Yeah.
And then eventually Ken finds his Uro and really threatens to win the long game because he now has 15, 16 cards in his graveyard. This Uro's coming back and back and back. So Gabriel Nassif has to use a lot of resources to deal with the Uro, and then Ken just combos and wins. This is a really nice game.
That's kind of what you like. A lot of people say things about combo decks, but I think that's a nice
it was
fight to
it was a great game.
I know what your combo is. You know what my combo is. You're trying to stop me. I'm trying to get it.
I think a lot of players from either seat would have lost that game way earlier.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So that's what
I just think it's so fun. I mean, I don't play a lot of combo myself. I can't actually play the deck because I don't have all the pieces yet.
Right.
But it is sitting in my
Stormcaller.
Yeah, I can get more. That's mythic.
A mythic. Yeah.
So I have this problem. I have tons of mythic wildcards and not enough rare ones. So I could totally craft as many of those as I needed.
Right.
I don't have the.
You used all your rares to get the mana base.
Yeah, the mana base. So I spent all my rares on land, so I don't have any dual casters. I don't have a lot of other pieces for that deck. So waiting until I can find a time where I have a little bit of extra.
Sure, the deck needs to evolve a bit. It didn't look that good. It just looked kind of a tier below the other decks in the event to me.
It just looks fun.
Ken is kind of a master of weird decks. Ken Yukihiro always. I was going to talk about this of the players I was really looking forward to watching.
Oh yeah.
But Ken's on my list. When there's a new event, and deck lists come in kind of a few days before the event, or right at round 1, I think they're published maybe.
Yeah.
I always scroll through to see what Ken submitted because he submits Neostorm or he submits like. I was a little disappointed, at the Mythic Invitational when he submitted Goblins.
Oh, and you're like, oh.
But he was the only Goblins player to make the top 8. But he always has like black-white auras or something.
Yeah.
He's the only one that can win a Grand Prix with that.
He
always has a weird deck, and
that's great.
He's the only one that can pilot it to success. But
yeah, I will definitely look out for his name now because I was not familiar with his name. I mean, I'm pretty new to all this stuff.
Yeah, and he's usually in like the Japanese events. Remember when they split the Pro Tours into like European and Japan?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. But now, I mean, they're doing a lot of stuff on Arena, so they can kind of push a bunch of people together.
Involved.
Yeah, which is awesome. And it also just like is a really nice way to view it. Mm-hmm. I think it will be nice eventually where we can kind of see both person's hand at the same time a little bit better than it is now.
And there's some delay because they often use the other player's stream to see their hand. Yeah. But then cards are leaving the person's hand before they're played on the screen.
Yeah, so you don't exactly know. I think it also has this weird thing of like whoever is on bottom, you feel like you're rooting for them.
Right.
Because it looks like how you play the game, right? So eventually, I'm sure that they'll figure something out. Or
have a viewer mode.
Yeah, maybe there's a viewer where you can
left
kind
to
of
right or something,
or you get to pick who you're watching or whatever.
Yeah,
true. Like maybe there's 3 cameras.
This will all be built in.
I think there's going to be they're going to work kind of more with it, but for the time being, I think it was a great way to to just spend the last or the weekend kind of jumping in and out, finding matches, keeping score, seeing who's still undefeated or anything. It was nice. I liked it.
Yeah, so I can kind of tell from what you were saying, but what players were you looking out for?
Yeah, so Autumn Burchett, I watched them play Mono Blue before when they won.
Oh, that's
so
incredible.
Now
The Grand Prix, right?
Yeah, the Grand Prix. So now
There's a semifinals or something where they played against Reed Duke in the mirror match.
Oh,
it was one of the best matches of Magic.
It's insane.
I've ever seen.
Absolutely insane. Definitely go watch that. But now I'm just I'm their fan. Like I follow them on Twitter.
I'd never heard of them before that event, and then I just start. And I think I didn't really like them on a blue deck because they dunked on me on Arena. So. But and I watched them play it, and I was just, they're just playing this stupid mono blue deck. And then I watched them play, and I was like, no, they're amazing.
They are amazing.
They were making such like plays you wouldn't think to make. You know, like not attacking with something that has what was that enchantment that if you don't attack it falls off.
Yeah. Curious Obsession.
Curious Obsession, right. Yeah. They just didn't attack with it, and then when they showed Reed Duke's hand, it's like the perfect play not to attack, and so they just let it fall off. It was just such an unintuitive play, and they did that time and time again, and eventually won this grueling match with Reed Duke, who's an amazing player himself.
Crazy. So now, anytime Autumn's in a tournament, I'm going to watch them.
Right.
And that's
there was one Star City event where they brought this like mono blue devotion combo deck. They didn't end up doing that well, but I guess they had a Twitter feed of do I play boring Sultai or do I play like these other decks? And Twitter voted for mono blue combo.
That's
so
funny.
They were playing that.
That's great. But with that, I mean, a lot of the decks that ended up in the top 8 had some similarities.
Right, yeah. So I was similar. Like I was looking out for Seth Manfield, Autumn Burchett, Ken Yukihiro, and I've also become a bit of a Luis Salvato fan after the Mythic Invitational.
That was pretty cool. I also kind of look out for him.
He was really doing well in that event. He didn't end up winning it. He did make top 8, but it was just very cool to watch him. You could see him on screen, and he was very calm and during the game, and then he would go crazy when he won, and I like to see that kind of enthusiasm. So that event made me a Luis Salvato fan. It corrected the negative opinion I had of him, negative strong, but when he won with Lantern of Insight combo deck. I hated that deck, and so I was like annoyed that Luis won with it. Because I knew I would see it all over Magic Online. After
that is true. That is that will happen.
Right, but he would. I mean, that's a very tough deck to pilot, and he showed a master class in it. But there was he was playing against Jerry T in the finals. I know we're diverging because we're talking about non-arena.
Sure.
But there's a point where Luis just plays this artifact, and Jerry T looks to the organizers and says, "Is it okay for me to concede now?" Because, I mean, he knows that it's going to be another 28 turns before Luis wins, but he knows it's essentially inevitable. But he wanted to make sure, like, this is the finals, the Twitch stream, will they understand? Is it okay? Do I have to do this really?
Yeah.
So he's saying, no, concede, it's okay. But that's the kind of level that he knows Luis is not going to make a mistake, and that the only way he wins from there is if Luis makes a huge mistake.
Yeah.
That deck was a total nightmare, but obviously Luis was a master.
I've definitely heard about it. I don't know a lot about it, but I've heard it's a nightmare.
Yeah, but then he brought this Rakdos Arcanist list, and now I'm totally on board with this synergistic mid-range deck that he brought.
That deck's sweet.
Yeah. It is my favorite historic deck, by the way. Christopher Larson brought it. I don't think it was a good pick, but I just love that deck so much that I selected it as my favorite historic deck of the event.
But with that,
I just want Croxa to be good so bad.
Croxa is pretty good.
It's just okay.
I think
it's no Uro.
It's not Uro, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
If there's a Croxa in the yard and they can play it, and it's just like, and then they get Lurus out or something, and you're just like, For a while, it was just eating so much incidental Uro hate.
Everyone had to be able to hate on Uro, remove it from the graveyard. That Croxa was kind of
gat at, or people liked it way too much because it wasn't Uro.
Right.
But man, I Anytime I see it across the board, I'm usually like pretty hesitant.
Sometimes it's just anemic, though, right? Where it's just, okay, that didn't do that much.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh no, I'm playing 3 damage.
Well, now I'm playing Gruel Adventure, so I'm just trying to like every game is okay. Scavenging Ooze has to stay on the board so I can eat it,
right?
And that becomes the game.
All right, but we should talk numbers here, right?
We should talk numbers.
So I had a couple of interesting factoids.
Ooh, factoids.
I wanted to point out that in the top 8, there's only one deck that doesn't have the word adventures in it, and that's Dimir Rogues by Seth Mann.
Wow, because he's not playing Brazen Borrowers.
Yeah, he has no adventures going on here.
Yeah, that's what I thought was kind of crazy about that deck too, because that would.
But every other thing in the top 8, Omnath Adventures, Gruel Adventures, Omnath Adventures. That was the first crazy thing. The other was Bone Crusher Giant. The dominance of Bone Crusher Giant.
Nuts.
So I'm pretty sure. So the reason I'm saying pretty sure is that if you look to MTG Goldfish's metagame analysis, they say that Bone Crusher Giant is in 94% of the standard decks. Now with 32 decks, that means it's not in 2. But I looked through this list, I could not find another list that it wasn't in. It's not in Seth Manfield's blue-black deck because it's a red card.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure every other deck contains it. The only thing I could find was Canister, Omnath ramp deck. Doesn't have any in the main deck. It has it in the sideboard. So maybe that's what they're referring to. But every deck has Omnath except... Yeah, has Bone Crusher Giant except Seth's deck.
115 copies.
Yeah, so what's 32 times 4?
Oh, you're the math guy.
It's 128.
Yeah.
So there are... Of a possible 128 copies, there's 115.
That's
Only
insane.
13 were missing, and Seth didn't play any. So we're really talking about 9, and that's people just playing 2 or 3.
Yeah,
and everyone else played a full 4.
That's crazy. And that card didn't get banned.
No,
which is good.
I don't think it should,
and I don't think it should.
We'll talk about the bannings in a bit.
Yeah.
I thought those were some crazy stats. Omnath, for example, came in at 92 copies, 72% of decks.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is, of course, Omnath, the whole deck is built around Omnath.
Yeah.
Bone Crusher Giant is...
In Omnath.
You have ability to make red mana, so you can slip this card.
It's a good red card, basically.
It's not...
So why would you not? It's...
Right. It's not going to define the format. It's just... I mean, it defines the format in the sense that stuff with 3 toughness looks a lot better. Bone Crusher Giant's in 94% of decks.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah,
these numbers are just insane. I mean, Edgewall Innkeeper, 72% of decks, 91 out of 128 copies.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, 6 of the top 8 players were on teams with each other. So, Austin and Aaron were teammates.
Okay.
Autumn and Emma are teammates. And then Raphael and Gabriel are teammates. That's what I heard. I'm pretty sure.
The French players.
But
so you didn't mention Patrick Fernandez and Seth Manfield.
Yeah, so those are the 2 that weren't teammates with anyone else who was also in the top 8.
Right, so a couple of teams kind of figured it out.
Especially Austin and Aaron, because they were in the finals
1
together.
and 2. Yeah, I guess we should mention that.
Yeah, who won?
The winner was Austin Bursavich.
Bursavich.
Not totally sure, because I was watching the broadcast and I'm pretty sure I heard Austin pronounce his last name differently than the commentators were.
But we can't remember exactly what it was.
And we couldn't find it in the VODs. So, Austin, sorry if I'm butchering your name, but the commentators say Bursavich.
Yes. But Austin Bursavich and Aaron Gertler, they were on a team together. They're 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Nuts. Also, I heard that Aaron gives away, for every tournament he does, I don't know if that's 100% true, but I heard that he gives away half of his winnings to charity.
That's
amazing. Nuts. I think I saw it on Twitter as well.
And it's not surprising to see Aaron coming in at number 2, because Aaron, as far as I know, as long as I've known his name, he's been playing adventures. I'm pretty sure he was the guy who pioneered the Teamer Adventures deck, or was at least the first to win a major event with it.
Interesting.
He's been playing Adventures since, Throne of Eldraine. So if there's a format where Adventures is the best deck, I'm not surprised at all to see him come
Absolutely.
in
Yeah.
the top.
Yeah, they were saying actually in the feature match at the end, a lot of times they were talking about some of those games Aaron was just like not getting Omnath, and most of the deck was just Teamer Adventures, and he's he's doing well. He's fighting back because he's just playing Teamer Adventures, and
Right.
he knows
He's
how to
got to
do
be
that.
one of the best Teamer Adventures players in the
knows
world,
how to
if
do
not
it.
the best.
Yeah.
So in the games where you don't draw your free win in Omnath,
Exactly.
you get to his skill really came out to show. It's funny that you mentioned Seth Manfield and Patrick Fernandez too, because that was one of the other games I wanted to highlight.
Mm-hmm.
I watched them play. I think it was the first round of Standard. And it was Seth, obviously, on Dimir Rogues, and Patrick was on Omnath Adventures. And they had a sort of funny, thing in the broadcast where they said they asked each player what they took about Historic from the Invitational 2 weeks before.
Interesting.
What did
Okay.
they learn from that Invitational? And Patrick Fernandez said, I learned that Seth Manfield is unbeatable. And then he's playing against Seth Manfield in this tournament. And he wins game 1, and they're like, well, maybe he was wrong. And then Seth comes back and wins the next 2 games. It
Yeah. Also interesting that.
was also a great match, by the way. Patrick played really well, so I don't want to take anything away from Patrick.
from Patrick, but I did think it was interesting because in the Mythic Invitational, Seth Manfield loses his first game, blazes through the lower bracket, wins the feature match, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't that also happen?
Austin did the same thing here.
Same
yeah.
thing, right?
That's
Lose
right.
your first. So it continues to be true what I've been saying
Right.
about when you play Magic, any place you go, if you're in a draft or whatever, lose your first match.
Yeah.
It's more fun.
This is your first lesson,
Yeah.
official lesson. from the
official
Arena
lesson from
Regulars
us. So
podcast.
this is what I would do.
I've already do that at tournaments.
Yeah,
I
so
lose right away.
Exactly. So it's not really necessarily on purpose, but if you're having a good time with your buddies or whatever, lose your first match and then you get pared down into the lower bracket and then you have more fun. Usually those people, they've
I don't
also
know,
been...
imagine getting pared down into the lower bracket here and you're against like Autumn Burchett or something. You're like,
No,
wow.
but I'm not playing against Autumn Burchett or Seth Manfield. I'm playing against my friends.
Yeah.
And it's great because then, I've already kind of lost my sense of like something's on the line. I can just kind of chill. I can drink an extra beer, not care,
Not in your own head.
So this is just me saying to you, purposely lose your first match so you can have more fun.
There you go.
Because that's what Magic's about, right?
Although it is kind of the eternal sports debate, right? If you win your series early and have to take
A break.
a break, or would you rather be the series that goes to 7 and you're still hot?
You want to stay hot.
And these tournaments, Seth and Austin both were just playing a ton of Magic. So when the finals rolled around, their opponent's just waiting for them for hours. In Gabriel's case, to play Seth in the Mythic Invitational, it was days because of the tech delays.
Yeah, so that's hard. Now, because of the extra days, does that mean that Seth doesn't get an advantage, though? He also took a break.
Right, but he played
That's
that
true.
day and played
Yeah,
8
that's
times.
true,
Gabe
that's
was
true,
just
that's
sitting
true.
there for hours.
And just like from
And the
day
last time
before.
he played was 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Or 2 days ago.
2 days ago. Yeah, crazy. Anyway, how's your beer?
Pretty
where
much
we at?
done, yeah. I would say that this isn't Mythic for me. It doesn't have the nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
But it's a really solid amber, and I love ambers. So I'm going to go plat, but I'm going to go plat 1 on this.
Okay,
I'm gonna
plat
say
1.
It's,
All right.
it's right on the verge.
I'm not hurt as much as I thought I would be. I think this is great. I think this pale ale is like, just feels like classic pale ale. If I picked up a pale ale and it didn't taste like this, I'd be surprised.
Right.
So I really like what it's doing. It is giving me platinum vibes because I also, I think it's good. I'm not a huge pale ale fan. It's not something I'm gonna go to anywhere and reach for.
Right.
I do like it though.
It's the bar by which pale ales should be measured. I think.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's good. And with that, I think we need another beer break.
Let's get another.
Let's get another one. So, Jeff, which one did you pick there?
Yeah. So I grabbed a fat tire.
Yeah,
as my
you
last
did.
beer here.
Fat tire for the win.
Yeah. I think the tiebreaker was just, that extra 1%.
It's the extra 1%.
0.1%. 0.1%.
Yeah, 0.1%.
Yeah.
Right? So, always good.
It's good. I just don't get to drink a nice amber ale as often as I get to drink a good pale ale.
It's right, because people don't make a lot of ambers. Why?
No.
I don't know. What's that about?
They'll make, 14 different IPAs. Then you ask if they have a red ale on tap. Red?
What? Red?
Why would I do that?
Why would I drink red? I don't get that. I love... Yeah, this is something... Before we talk about what we're going to talk about...
Right. Before we talk about Magic.
Yeah, before we talk about Magic again. Beers. What are your favorite beers?
So...
Just styles. We don't need to get into all the nitty gritty.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is that this is something one of my best friends told me, and I've sort of stolen it.
Wait.
He said, I'm not a beer snob. I'm a beer geek. So I like all beer, to be honest. I'll make fun of somebody for drinking a Coors Light, but I'll drink a Coors Light too. That's fine. that's a beer.
Yeah.
And so any beer is really... Sometimes you just want a nice cold beer to, play through Platinum with.
Exactly.
But my favorite styles tend to be the in-your-face styles. So I do like the big IPAs.
Mm-hmm.
I think my number one favorite style would be like a Russian Imperial Stout.
Okay.
We're talking like,
all right, 11, I'm on board with that.
11% stout, the first sip punches you in the mouth.
Yeah.
Like your taste buds aren't ready for that.
Yeah.
And then they start to acclimate. That's my number one. Some great recommendations for you for Canadian beers for that.
Ooh, I will actually like to hear that list, because if the word Imperial is in front of something, usually I will take it.
Yeah.
Because they are crazy. Though IPAs are usually not my favorite thing. Mm-hmm. I actually, I only started drinking them when I moved to Canada and was too poor to buy other things. So I needed to, if I was going to have a good night, I had to be drinking IPAs.
Right, because they're more expensive, but they're 2.5% more.
A little bit more expensive.
They're not 50% more expensive.
So I will pay. I'll drink 2 beers and have 3 beers worth of a night. Sure. Essentially, and that's kind of why I got into it. It was like, I don't love this, but I appreciate what it's doing. Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel with it.
Plus, at Draft and Draft, they used to sell they were $5 pints of Fin du Monde, which is a 9% Belgian triple from Montreal.
So you got to get your money's worth there, man.
That's one of the best deals in the city.
Well, it's also that your draft kind of goes to shit.
Yeah, by round 3, you don't know what the hell's happening.
You don't know what's going on. What? Is it my turn? Do I draw? Did I play a land yet?
Who won that match?
Yeah, who won that match?
Who gets the pack?
I've definitely done that a couple times there.
Yeah.
But with that, some big news in the Magic community.
So there was a banned and restricted announcement yesterday.
There was a big one.
So why don't you tell us what happened in Standard?
So basically, Standard, the most important card that had to get banned was Lucky Clover. I'm just kidding. Omnath, Locus of Creation. That's the card that got banned. That's the one everyone was yelling about, during previews. Basically, this is a card people have been talking about, and this feels so soon.
I remember we discussed the set, because we were talking about, we were planning the podcast when the set was being spoiled. Yeah, we were both just like, isn't this card the dumbest card ever?
Busted. I mean, so. What I like about this card is that it is visually appealing.
Especially the promo version. Damn.
Yeah, well, that's nice. Not just the artwork, but talking about there's an aesthetic thing about it that feels good when it costs
the amount of 4 that's going on.
Yes, it costs 4 mana. It's a 4/4. It does 4 things. Each thing is a different color that's part of its identity, right?
And it's 4 life, and it makes 4 mana. It deals 4 damage. Deals 4 damage. Yeah. Draws 1 card. Should have been 4. Obviously.
Yeah, it enters the battlefield.
If you're going to make this card, anyways.
But basically, that part, the design of it, I'm 100% on board for. I totally see it, and I understand why it was made.
You understand how this got in the file.
Yes, I understand that this makes sense. We add an extra color to Omnath.
It's a really cool story, right? Omnath is green, then he's green red, then he's green red blue, now he's green red blue white.
So, and especially because the white one comes fairly early, right? The white ability, which is gaining 4 life, of course. I think that the design is super cool. Do I think the power level is way pushed and the card's busted? Yes.
Right.
Did it need to be banned? Absolutely. Was it cool and did I like playing with it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, of course it was fun.
Yeah. I crafted them.
I crafted a bunch. Yeah, I played them even before it was banned. Like, I was like, let's do it.
I even shoehorned him into a draft deck that had no business playing on that.
Yeah. Friends of mine that are like, I'm going to build a commander deck. I'm like, do it. That's basically what it was made for.
Yeah. It's definitely what
it's definitely what it's made for. It's a dope card. It needed to be banned. It's going to be so healthy for the format. Everyone on Twitter is so excited. That and Lucky Clover and Escape to the Wilds are also banned in Standard. I think they're all great bans, and I think that we're going to have a really healthy format coming out of this. It was really fun to watch them in action, and I still thought the games were extremely interesting and very competitive, even though a lot of the decks were very similar to each other.
For sure.
The mirror match is still pretty interesting, and I love the tournament. So I'm glad to see it go, but I'm glad it was here.
Yeah.
To watch it go.
My only disappointing thing about this, honestly, is that now the biggest tournament of the season was kind of a dead format.
Yeah.
You can't kind of just copy paste stuff from there. I mean, the Gruul Adventures deck is still going to work.
That's the best one. You take the
But
Gruul
even
Adventures
that
deck.
was, Emma tuned that to be good against Omnath.
Exactly.
Kind of thing, so.
It's still good against all the other decks, to be fair, though. But
Right.
but
I mean, it's still the de facto best deck.
I will say watch out for decks that are building themselves around killing that deck.
Yeah, I mean,
But for
I think
historic-
this set of standard bans is perfect.
Yeah.
Right? If you just ban Omnath, Adventures comes in and is the obvious best deck.
Yes.
So let's let go of Lucky Clover as well. And then there's still some concern about ramp decks. And people are saying, oh, maybe Lotus Cobra. Listen, Lotus Cobra is a 2-1. If you
It's a
can't deal
2-1.
with a 2-1, you deserve to get dunked on, you know? If your deck has no way of interacting with a 2-1 creature,
Yeah.
you need to rebuild your deck.
Just play some 1-mana removal.
I actually think having it in the format is good because it keeps people honest. You can't build some weird combo deck that has no way of interacting with a 2-drop.
Exactly.
Because this one is just going to roll out of hand. And I think people are wildly overstating its power level. I mean, this card has been in Modern for years with decks where your entire mana base could be fetch lands, essentially. And people don't play it because it's not good enough.
Yeah.
So the fact that, it's too good with Fabled Passage. Come on, it was in Standard with fetch lands. It was good. It's not the problem. The problem is that you play
Omnath, and then
Yeah.
when you fetch, you get 4 mana plus 2 more from the Lotus Cobra.
Right.
Or whatever, if you have doubles. Or those are the real problems.
And I think they're right that the ramp decks might still be too good. So don't ban the Cobra, the one that keeps people honest. Ban the Escape to the Wilds, which is a ridiculous card anyways. Why does red-green get to draw 5 cards?
Yeah, and keep them for more than a turn.
Why does Gruul get to draw 5 cards? No, get that card out of here because it doesn't make any sense anyways. Although I think the art is friggin' gorgeous on that card.
I think the art is really cool, and would you like that card better if it only let you play them for that turn? Like a classic red.
It would just be too bad.
It would be too bad.
Yeah. I think the card is a cool design. And I kind of liked it when it was doing the funky adventures thing, where it's like, I'm kind of cheating it because I'm just playing the adventures, and then I could still play those cards later. I thought that was a really cool interaction. But now people are just jamming it into ramp decks as a way to get a second land drop for your landfall.
Yeah, it's like another Explorer.
It's literally just a draw 5 out of ramp.
Yeah.
And it kind of, they said it perfectly in the ban announcement. It bridges the gap from your 2-drop Lotus Cobra to your 8-drop Ugin or your 7-drop Ultimatum. So that's the card. Just get rid of that card, and then it's a much more traditional ramp deck. Because the reason ramp decks have been so good is that the flaws of ramp decks are when you draw all ramp cards and no payoffs, or all payoffs and no ramp cards. The deck doesn't do anything, right? But recently they've just printed so many cards that are both, like Nissa, Uro, Omnath. All these cards are payoffs and ramp you.
And early cards, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a 3-drop that plays another land that wins you the game in the lane.
And gains you life, too.
Right.
And also the incidental stuff, like, I'm pretty sure in the feature match, we saw Austin at like 8 life, and then in 2 turns, he's at 20 again. Just from playing, like...
I mean, I watched a match in the Star City Games tournament. I think I sent you the thing where it's Gruul aggro with like Questing Beast, the Mammoth, and one other creature against an opponent with just 4 lands and on 4 life. I'm like, who do you think wins this game? And it's the Omnath player. They played Omnath, played a Fabled Passage, then played an Elder Gargaroth. And it's just like, okay.
And you're like, okay, great.
Yeah, I guess it just doesn't matter what Gruul does against this deck then.
Especially, it's good that it's gone. I think the bans are great. I've been very happy with them. How about Historic? What are we looking at in Historic bans?
All right, so for those who don't know, the way Historic works, it's kind of weird. Because it's an online format, they have this suspension system. They suspend things, and then that gives them time to decide whether they're going to permanently actually ban this or take it back off suspension. And they've done this in the past where they actually remove a card from the list.
Which they've done. But, so with suspended cards, does that mean that I can't play any of them, or can I play one of them?
You can't play any of them.
Can't play any. So it's not like restricted or anything.
No, but they're not committed to banning it yet.
Got it.
And I think there's some time period on when they have to decide. I'm not totally sure on that. But so in Historic, Omnath Locus of Creation is suspended.
Okay.
So you're not allowed to play it, but there's a possibility you can play it in the future. Teferi Time Raveler, it was suspended previously, now it's banned. It's gone.
Straight up.
Yeah, totally gone.
No more.
And same with Wilderness Reclamation. It was suspended, now it's banned.
Goodbye, both of you.
Yeah. And Burning Tree Emissary was suspended. They have decided they were, maybe the power level of the format has adapted to this, and so it's now unsuspended.
I think that is
It's a
great.
legal card. Yeah, again, perfect.
I'm super down with that. I love Burning Tree Emissary.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just go Burning Tree, Burning Tree, Burning Tree thing, but I mean, come on, we're playing a
so what?
Ultra powerful format here. It's just a bunch of 2/2s.
Is that as bad as like a Muxus?
Yeah, play Flame Sweep,
Who cares?
It kills them all.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that big a deal. You have much worse problems with like a Hasty Cranko,
right,
and different things in the Goblins deck, or any of the other decks that are in.
So this is a great example, I think, of the suspension system.
Yeah,
working well. Teferi Time Raveler, yeah, happy to see it go. I actually don't think the card is too powerful. I just think it's too unfun. It's powerful in ways that you don't want your cards to be powerful.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest, ultimately it's kind of like it's just the best Mana War ever, because it just comes in and draws a card. It's Mana War. And I played a lot of it because you kind of had to compete in that format.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would just come in, buy you a turn, draw a card. That's it. But as a floor, that's not bad.
That's pretty good.
So the card is powerful. But
also gain you some life.
I think it's mostly just super unfun to play against. I mean, I can't play Instance now. That's just and so many people are gonna forget and then get burned by it.
Which I get. I haven't had the horror stories you have had with it. I haven't played enough with it to really understand it as much as you have. My main thing with like unfun cards, I don't have a huge problem with them. Most of the time when a card seems unfun, I just haven't had enough unfun times with it that I hate it.
Right. So that's the thing about Teferi. Like, when I would talk about Teferi in Standard, I would say in terms of pure power level, I think this is totally appropriate power level for the best card in Standard. It comes into play, bounces something, and draws a card. And then it has upside from there. The problem with it is just so many decks were unplayable because of its passive ability. Because this was in every deck, you just couldn't hope to play certain cards. And it did that weird thing where, like, some abilities, exile a card, you may play that. Now you can't play it because it's technically not, like, any time you could play a sorcery. So it just turned off cards. So that's what I mean by unfun. Yeah, I got burned on that. What's the Chandra from M20 that lets you cast something from your graveyard? So many times it just wouldn't let me do it. And I'm looking at the arena screen. I'm like, Why did I just click through that? Did I make a mistake? And then I see the Teferi. I'm like, oh. Even though I'm doing it at sorcery speed, because the ability forces me to, it's still... There's
you can only play things at sorcery speed?
Because Chandra's ability is on the stack. And when something is on the stack, you cannot play something at sorcery speed. So
so it won't let anything go on the stack after something's on the stack.
That's right.
It
turned off a lot of really cool cards, basically.
Oh, yeah, I see that now. Okay.
And it's going to continue to do that.
Yeah.
The more cards they print that are cool.
Yeah. It'll just do that. That's even...
Wilderness Reclamation I hated from day one. Glad to see that gone.
As a Commander player, I thought it was amazing. I was
it's
like,
amazing.
Thank God.
It's a good card, yeah.
However, I don't play green very much, so I don't really play it. Brawl. I have some Brawl decks. Do you have a Brawl deck?
I think I built one, and I played a bit of Brawl in the early days, but I haven't played Brawl in a long time.
Brawl is hard because I forget about rotation. So I built a Gadrak, that mono red dragon.
Yeah.
That deck is actually pretty fun because it's kind of aggressive. Which is Brawl.
It's a 5/4 flying for 3 or whatever.
Yeah. Brawl is fun because you can actually play aggro decks in like a Commander style format, which I like because in Commander they're not extremely viable. And then I also had a Kroxa deck. That was fun. But yeah, Omnath being banned in Brawl, great. Totally fine with that.
Yeah.
Being able to play it again and again.
I assume just everyone was playing Omnath.
Yeah. That and Kinnan. Kinnan is a big Brawl.
That makes sense.
Yeah. He's a little rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't had a bunch of experience with that. But I can see
Brawl seems like a great format. I just wish they would make it, some sort of competitive ladder to it, so I could actually feel good about
exactly. Yeah, it feels okay. But yeah, it is hard when it's not quite Commander and not quite Standard.
See, for me, I saw kind of Brawl as a way to actually get into Commander because part of my issue with Commanders, there's just so much out there for it.
Yeah.
Anytime I want to build a Commander deck, I could choose this legend. I look it up, and there's thousands of people who have built it,
done a bunch of
way
stuff.
better than I would have built it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the alleged variety is not as large as...
It is interesting because the variety is a very intentional thing. Like, if your play group is very healthy and everyone you're playing with is focused primarily on making and brewing decks and making things, being able to play with cards that you don't normally get to play with, then you have a large variety of things. Obviously, when you play with them a lot, then you'll see cards over and over again and they won't feel new anymore. But you won't see the same type of decks that you will if you go to like a Magic Fest or something where people are just trying to win prizes because they're going to be playing like combo
so-called
stuff.
CEDH.
CEDH, except for a lot of those are not considered CEDH, I guess, events. They're just casual events, but because the CEDH people don't have anywhere to go, they go there, right? Which makes sense. And it's totally fine. It just is. It has a lot of... Most of the format feels like if you do something I don't like, then... I can tell you about it. If you continue to do it, I'll just stop inviting you to play.
Right.
Which also makes sense. Like it kind of, people say self-governing. That's what they mean.
Yeah, it's like our theme, man. Magic is
exactly,
fun.
It's fun. Although, it's hard because fun is such a broad concept.
But, if you're not having fun, do something to change that.
And so I think that's it works pretty well. Brawl is obviously you have one enemy, so.
Sure, but it doesn't. That's the way it is on Arena. But
that's true. Just nobody. They haven't been able to fire any Brawl paper.
For
events.
sure. I guess one of my biggest issues with Commander was the singleton deck building seemed so cool at first,
and then
but it turned out it's not really because there's so many.
Most of the time, you're just trying to get duplicate
effects.
things. Yeah.
Whereas Brawl, I think, does solve that problem.
It definitely does, because you have to play some
You have to play some garbage.
My Gadrak deck just plays any artifact that's playable.
Right.
It's like,
and playable's stretch.
Does it draw a card? Yeah, sweet. Okay, I'll play this. I'll play anything that will just come into play and draw a card. Is an artifact.
I mean, that's kind of true in Magic in general.
Yeah.
If it says draw a card on it, you're gonna have to really convince me not that it's bad.
Gadrak just wants all these, or just like any of those goblins that come into play, and then you can sacrifice them to deal 1 damage or something.
Right.
Any of those guys, so that when Gadrak's out, I can make treasure. It's great.
Anyways, I assume. I mean, I don't play
Brawl very much. Yeah.
But I assume this ban was good.
I'm sure it's good.
Sure, Omnath was dominant. In terms of the metagame, are there any standard decks you expect to see now that
Yes.
Omnath is gone?
Yes, I expect to see Gruul Adventures a lot.
Yeah.
Because I am playing Gruul Adventures. I actually haven't seen a ton. I've been seeing lots of there's a Rakdos deck going around that's like Luris Rakdos, but it's playing Kroxa, but it's also playing all those 1 mana 1/1 black lifelinkers that when you play them from the graveyard they become 5/5 demons.
Yeah.
That card. A lot of those.
The problem with Rakdos right now is it's one of the color combinations that Wizards doesn't let you play because you don't have a dual land.
True. So
I mean, you have the temple, but you don't.
Sure.
You don't have a pathway.
You don't have a pathway. So pathways.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about them. I don't know why they picked the color combinations they did, but I know why they didn't do all of them.
I know why they didn't put in the blue-green one.
Well, the blue-green one makes sense. But if you look at the sheet, if you listen to tomorrow's podcast,
mm-hmm.
That's Mark Rosewater.
Yeah.
If you listen to his podcast, a lot of the times they're talking about the important things to the game designers and the stuff they have to deal with is cards on a sheet that they're printing, right? So when they're doing the modal double-face cards, they have to have a certain number of them to fill up a sheet so that when they print them, they'll cut correctly. Or
that's why there's a 6/4 split.
So that's their 6, right? So every other color has 6 modal cards, right?
I
so
see.
White has 6, blue, black.
Ah, interesting.
They all have 6. So that's why
they worked out something similar in Kaldheim.
So
the other 4.
Yes. So they have exactly the right number so that 6 lands were able to be printed.
I just got to say, there's no Golgari one, and I'm upset.
All right. Well, we're getting another one. You know that. They've talked about that.
If I want to play green-black, I got to play Abzan.
But
I feel like my girl Nissa is getting hurt by this right now.
But let's see, if you're playing in draft, let's say,
mm-hmm.
right? So you have a white-red one, which is Warriors. Great. There's a blue-red one, which is Wizards. Awesome. Right? That's all I'm going to say about that.
So they didn't do the ones that are like the party time mechanics. So like blue-white is party, red-black is party. Like the ones that...
Parties, like everything.
Kind of, but for example, there's no tribe that overlaps in blue and white in the party tribes. Like blue has wizards and rogues.
No, but there's a blue cleric.
I know, there's like one creature, but I'm saying blue is wizards and rogues, and white is warriors and
no, but they
clerics.
have 3 different ones. So there's the primary, the secondary, and then the 2
I get that,
tertiary.
but the tertiary is like one. So any 2 colors that overlap in a tertiary are the limited format has built them into party. The theme is party.
Sure.
So blue-white, because blue is dominant in wizards and rogues, and white is dominant in warriors and clerics.
Right.
They don't overlap as a tribe. So if you're drafting blue-white, you want to draft party. Red-black's the same way.
Or you can draft party well because you will have access to.
And you'll notice the blue-white uncommon pays you off for party, right? And red-black's the same way.
Right.
Red-black's like aggro party because it's uncommon is a mace that whatever. And
that's actually pretty good. That mace is, I think it's good.
Yeah, I've lost to it a lot. I've never won with it.
I've played it a few times and it's won me some stuff.
But yeah, I guess those are the missing dual lands, right?
Sure.
Like green black is
okay. I get it.
It's
so,
not a tribe.
Yeah. So
+1/+1
the pathways
counters.
the pathways that we got are the ones for
the tribes in
the
draft.
tribes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you would probably play them in standard, right? They didn't give you parties. Rogues.
Yeah.
Blue black, right?
Another deck I expect to see. I mean, rogues
Yes.
will always be popular just because people love it. But I do expect it to see increased metagame share with the Omnath ban.
I wonder, are more people... I don't know the viewing of this tournament, but I wonder how many people will be playing
Sets list. Yeah.
Because, like, I am fairly new to this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having a great time playing everyone's decks, and then deciding which cards I don't like, or I have it over and over again. I'm like, why is this card in this deck? Either taking it out or doing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But Seth's list is just so different than other rogue decks, mainly because you're not playing the legendary rogue.
Right. It was a rogue deck.
Yeah, it's a rogue. That I wonder if we're going to be seeing a lot more of that list.
Well, it's not even just having to watch the event. You know, Seth might tweet
That's
it,
true.
and then
That's
someone
true.
retweets it.
Or if you just, if you're
and
just
it made
Googling
the top
a list.
8. If you just go to look at
and
the top
this
8.
is a rogue list.
So I would expect to play against Seth's list.
Okay, so most of the time, you're saying that if you see open black mana, end of your turn, they play that.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that they're definitely playing Seth's list.
But you'd be more expecting to see more counterspells because the other ones aren't.
Right. The other thing I wanted to say is that because of the Omnath ban, it kind of allows you to play aggro and control again.
That is true. That's very true.
Now, I know Gruul Adventures, it was kind of considered the aggro deck of the format, but as far as aggro decks go, it's pretty mid-range. It's pretty close to the mid-range barrier. Yeah. Now you can play mono red again, maybe. I mean, the problem with Omnath is it's a 4/4 for 4 that gains 4 life every turn.
Yeah. So then, like
How's mono red supposed to beat that ever?
Exactly. The aggro decks have to count to more than 20, right?
Yeah, a lot
more, like twice as much.
If they play a Fabled Passage, then
screwed.
they just play
You're just like,
something else.
What are you gonna do?
And Control had the same problem with, but if an Omnath ever kind of slips under the radar, they're just getting so much value by playing lands that it's hard for the Control deck to keep up. So I think this opens up a lot of new possibilities.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool decks. What are the kind of things that you are excited about as far as like deck building goes?
Oh, I'm a brewer, so even before the Omnath ban, I was just playing blue-black mill. So we got Hedron crab. No, what's the
Ruin Crab?
Ruin Crab,
the new one, the good one.
Yeah.
Ruin Crab,
right? And Teferi's Tutelage, and I got some Teferis in there, and it was that was a fun deck, and it was doing pretty well even before.
Yeah, it's a great deck.
I have this awesome blue-black kicker deck that relies on the drakes, the nest of drakes, maybe?
Yeah, roost of drakes.
Roost of drakes, thank you. And just a bunch of kicker cards, and then Seagate Stormcaller to double those kicker cards.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. I still need to work out. I think it has a little too few win conditions right now.
Okay.
It's really just relying on those 2 cards that I just mentioned.
Most of my decks rely on just 2 cards.
Yeah,
so.
it just sounds awesome. And then I have this Esper party deck in the works. I chose Esper because I think the best payoffs for party are in blue and white.
Yes.
Linvala in particular.
Linvala for sure.
And then some of the best party enablers, some of just the best cards are black.
Yeah.
So I went with Esper. The problem is, I think you have to play that terrible land that's for party decks.
Really? You need to play, what is it called, Boot Camp or something?
Yeah, it's called something camp for sure. I don't know why they had to make that card so bad. Like, why does it have to enter the battlefield
If it
tapped?
didn't enter tapped, it would be so much better, right?
Anyways, Esper doesn't have a tri-land. So I think you might have to, other than Fabled Passage, I think you got to play that.
Really? How many are you playing? 4?
I'd hope to play less than 4, but we'll see. I got to still work the mana base, but that's the problem with playing things that, you don't have the full cycle of pathways
Exactly.
yet.
So maybe that deck will
no
be
blue-white pathway yet.
more relevant when the next set comes out.
Yeah, maybe.
We
So
might
a
get the
base
other
camp.
pieces.
I'm pretty sure it's base camp.
Base camp, that's what it is.
I don't want to play that card, but I think I might have to.
You can play 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really excited. I've been trying to get something together. My magical Christmas land is where I have an Ashaya on the battlefield
Right.
and a bunch of creatures.
Which makes all your creatures lands.
Yes, and then I cast Ondu Inversion to destroy all non-land permanents, which is just my opponent's stuff.
Yeah,
and
it's just Plague Wind.
It just sounds hilarious. I just really want that to happen. So whatever I can do to get that to work. Originally, I was doing like a Scoot Swarm thing, except for Ashaya only turns non-token.
I see.
Creatures.
You found
into
out that
land.
Ashaya and Scoot Swarm was not an infinite
It's
combo?
not an infinite combo.
Yeah.
If you turn out, you play one creature, it doesn't just make them infinite.
Yeah.
Which is probably good. Hey, at least the design team figured that out,
Yeah.
right?
Hey, there's the Felidar
Yeah.
card as well that would also infinite combo if they didn't make it non-token.
Exactly.
That sounds like fun.
I'm working on that one.
Yeah. I don't think it sounds even that janky either. I mean, if you have this Plague Wind / land card in your deck, that's decent.
I'm thinking, well, I'll have to play. What is it?
Black, right? Of course.
Black. I'll have to play black so I can like. Oh well, I can play Nissa that way.
And cheat in your Ashayas
How?
with her minus.
Oh, with Nissa. I thought you meant like a separate card.
That'd be cool.
No, yeah. But and also you have like better removal for the early game.
I think Nissa's a really good card. I think
Yeah, I
she's just
haven't
getting
seen it at
hurt
all.
right now because there's no green-black pathway.
Okay, all right, I
So
can see that.
If
I guess
you want to play green-black, you got to go Abzan.
yeah,
for
but
the Triome.
if I'm playing Abzan, I get the Triome.
Yeah.
Then I get both pathways, the white black one and the white green one.
That's right.
So-
Sounds like we got a deck to
I
brew
think
next week.
that's a pretty interesting deck. We'll see how it goes. I don't know.
Hey, with Omnath gone, anything's possible.
Anything is possible. But with that, I think we are wrapping up on our very first episode.
Yeah.
Wow. What I would like to know is what all of you think. What's your feedback? Tell
Yeah.
us some stuff. And you can find us at Arena Regulars on Instagram and Twitter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just let us know. Is there anything you liked in particular, didn't like in particular, suggestions for improvements?
Yeah,
We're
or
happy to
segments or ideas or anything. We are starting. This is the thing. We're doing this.
We're
It's
doing it.
happening. We made one. It's great. And with that, I say cheers to you as
Cheers.
I finish my beer.
Me too.
All right. Good night. All right, that's fine.